Hello everyone, this is Leather Botcher. My YouTube channel is primarily leather videos. Although I am a hardware technician, didn't have any intention of doing software or hardware technical videos because that genre is carried extremely well on YouTube. For the most part, there's very little that I could say that hasn't been covered by somebody, except this one particular area. The Hewlett-Packard Elitebooks. For whatever reason, the only real solution, particularly for Windows 7, is to do INF modifications. And I've done it, and it's an absolute pain. And I bought a GTX 980m card. I installed it in an HP Elitebook 8770w. And I literally waited for someone to come up with a solution for making Windows 10 Pro work with it properly, specifically with a signed driver. And I literally, like a week or two ago, gave up. I literally gave up and figured it's just never going to happen. And I bought a Quadro 5010M to put in there instead, and I had every intention of doing that. But when I was watching a bunch of videos trying to reacquaint myself with how to install the Quadro 5010M and do all of the technical work on that, I stumbled across someone's video where they had a solution for how to install a signed driver for the 8GB NVIDIA 980M MXM video card in an HP Elitebook 8770w running Windows 10 Pro. And I thought, well, I have to try this. And this is the video that is the result of that. Now, there's two different install approaches I'm going to cover. The first one is those people that are doing a clean Windows 10 install. I have to be honest, that's the easiest solution. I would advise it. But if you are in that position where you have a Windows 7 installation in place, you have all this stuff on there, files and everything, and it's running in test mode because that's about the only way you can run the video card driver for this in Windows 7, which is kind of a sad thing because the solution I'm going to show you does not work with Windows 7. I'm sorry. I tried it, didn't work. But it does work with Windows 10. Now, I can't speak for the 8760 or the 8460 or the 8470. I only know for a fact that this works with the 8770w and this particular video card. It's possible that this driver will work on the others. I'm not sure. So that's where we are. Please enjoy the video. And you're welcome to ask me questions on this, but to be honest with you, I don't have answers on the other stuff. In fact, I did my install of this card like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't even remember the actual part number on the card. That's how long it's been. Even the INF modifications I did on that a long time ago. But thankfully, this process does not require you to do INF modifications whatsoever. And it does install a signed WHQL certified driver. It's just a little bit older. I have to be honest, it is a 5-year-old driver. So please enjoy the process. Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm having to redo this video because the audio is so bad. So this is the clean install I did, where I installed Windows 10 over a completely clean version of Windows 7. There was no drivers installed on the Windows 7 at all. My Windows 10 version required an upgrade, so I had no choice. I had to do it this way. So I just basically installed Windows 10 right over the top of a clean install of Windows 7. And I'm not going to go over the process of installing Windows 10. I'm assuming that you're technically competent to do that. So I'm just going to pick up right after the install of Windows 10 and go from there. Now, I'm actually doing this on another system in preparation for the install of it on the HP Elitebook 8770w. So I'm not actually doing what I'm going to do right here on the HP Elitebook. But you can do it on the HP Elitebook if you want. So the actual utility that you use to install the signed driver is actually called Snappy Driver Tool. I know, I thought it was a fake thing when I first heard about it, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I had no faith in it. But someone in one of the comments of a Russian video had actually said, no, that's what you use to install a certified driver. So I had to at least try it. So I did a search for Snappy Driver Tool, as you can see right here, and it brought up https sditool.org. They are a non-profit shareware type situation. So you pull it up here. It's free. You click download. You can do the full or you can do the light. My suggestion is do the light. Don't waste your time downloading the other one. Just do the light version. Click download. It will say there's a security risk, but just click on it and allow download anyway, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's just one of those things where Windows hates anything they haven't done. That's what it boils down to. Once it's downloaded, you're going to take the executable file and you're going to put it into a folder and expand SDI underscore R2201. Okay? And I'm going to pull it over just to a new folder on the desktop. Then I'm going to right click on it and click extract here. And there you have it. It's that simple. So what you'll do when you go to install this, I'm going to show you in the next video here in a second, is you'll open up this folder, you'll download this to your Windows 10 desktop, and then you'll run this file right here, the SDI X64 R2201 file. Okay? So I'm going to take you to that process right now. What I'm doing now is I'm executing the SDI underscore X64 underscore R2201 file. And it loads up something very similar to a driver update utility. As you can see here, it literally shows all the different devices on the system. The HP Elitebook 8770w. Now, my advice at this point, even though that's not what I actually do, is to select all up at the top there and select all of them at once. And then just have them install all of them at once, including a restore point. That would be the ideal situation. But, as you can see here. Now I've restored I've done the restore point, and I'm going to select a few starting off before I realize, you know what, why don't I just do it this way? And initially, this is the clean install of Windows. I want to just clarify that this is not the one that had all my files on it, because I really didn't know if it was work. I didn't know if there was going to be a virus in it or what. So I ran the install on this, and it's going to take a little while, so I'm going to do this time lapse because of the amount of time it took to do this. You can see it cut out the screen really quick there when I was doing the install. So I'm going to do this time lapse just because it takes a while to do this. Just let it run all the way through, and including the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 980m. Do that one as well at the same time. There's no reason not to. Okay, I'm doing time lapse here. It's downloading the first portion. I opted to do all of the drivers without the GTX at first, but you really don't have to do that. You can do all of them at once. And it's literally finding all of the updated drivers for all of these devices for this entire machine for you all at once. You don't have to go to Hewlett-Packard and download one driver after another. It's crazy. This downloads all of them for you at one shot. And once it's done downloading them, it will then proceed to install them one after another, as you can see. Some of these drivers will require reboot. Some will cause issues with your screen. That's all expected. It's nothing out of the ordinary. So don't be alarmed if your screen shuts out or whatever happens. And now I'm rebooting the system to initiate those drivers, and I have to be honest, this takes time. Do not expect this updating process to be done in like 5 or 10 minutes. It's going to be an insane amount of time. It took, I think it was like an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to do all of this by the time all was said and done, because I had to keep updating over and over and over and over again. I did want to make an important point here. When you're doing this, the install of all these things, you do not have to disable the driver enforcement. In fact, just don't even worry about trying to shut down the driver enforcement and doing any of that. It's not an issue. Now here I'm going to go ahead and install the GTX. I opted to do it separately, which you don't have to. But right now I'm going to install it. It's a larger file than the others. It will take longer if you do them all at once, but it's not a big deal. So this will install all the drivers. You don't have to modify any of the INF files. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to worry about disabling the driver enforcement or any of that. This will literally install signed drivers specifically. And if there's not a signed driver available, the chances are it wouldn't find one. It would rather not install a driver than install one that's not signed. That's my thinking on the issue. Now this doesn't work with Windows 7. For whatever reason, there is no signed driver that this thing could find for Windows 7. But it does find one for Windows 10. So I'm about ready for it to finish installing the GTX card. Then it will reboot, and I will then show you in the device manager that the drivers are all installed. When you're doing the installation over a Windows 7 installation that's running in test mode, that has all your files and drivers and everything in it, even modified INF files, the process is a little bit different. So that's the next portion. Okay, as you can see in Device Manager, it shows the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 980m. I've right-clicked on it, brought up Properties, and now I am clicking on the Driver tab. And this is what you get. After you've installed the drivers, you can see it's not in test mode, or it would have something at the bottom right. You get the driver details that are showing right there. It's a March 23rd, 2018 driver, but it does have the Microsoft Windows Hardware Compatibility Publisher. It is signed by Microsoft. For me, what I did was I just installed Windows 10 right over the top of the Windows 7, even though it had the modified INF drivers and everything else in place. I should have removed them first, to be perfectly honest with you. But it did carry over, oddly enough. In my case, it carried over the driver that it was using, and it actually worked in Windows 10. It kind of surprised me. But it was still running in test mode in Windows 10 is the problem. So that's what I'm going to show you next. Thanks for watching. Took the time to install Windows 10 over the Windows 7 that I had before, with all my files on it and everything. And this is what I ended up with. I ended up with a Windows 10 version, if you look at the bottom right, that's running in test mode. It is Windows 10, but it's in test mode. What I wasn't expecting, and this is something I should have done beforehand, was to delete the original driver so that it would get installed with a Microsoft adapter, because I know some people are having problems when they try to install over the Windows 7 with modified INF drivers, that when they go into Windows 10, it blacks out and gives problems, and they can't get Windows 10 to actually load or run. In my case, it worked. I had it in test mode still, but it was Windows 10 test mode with a working driver, as you can see here in a second. I'm accessing the device manager now, clicking the display adapter, and voila. Even though it's in test mode for Windows 10, it installed the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 980m driver that I had, which kind of surprised me. Problem is, it's not a signed driver. So I still had to do the snappy driver installer and reinstall all these drivers, and then I had to go through the process of removing the test mode and re-engaging the integrity checks. And that's what I'm going to be showing you now, is that process. Okay, I'm not going to go over this entire process all over again. Basically, just access the Snappy Driver tool in the Windows 10 Pro that's running in test mode, if this is what happened with your system, and double click on the SDI X64R2201 executable, load it up, and just do the exact same thing. I start with downloading indexes only, and what that does is it downloads all of the driver details. It didn't show it in the other video for some reason, but yeah, you run this to download all the driver details so it knows what's in your system, because this is a separate drive entirely. This is my actual drive with all my files on it. When it gets done loading, then it shows all of the components in your system to install the drivers for. So once that happens, it's pretty straightforward. Select all, click download and install. Okay, you have to wait until everything's loaded and running. Now I'm going to show you how to remove the test mode and re-enable the integrity checks. So you're going to type in CMD for the command prompt in the search field. Or you can go to the right there and you can see I already have it, or it's selectable. Now you're going to go up here, and if you put the arrow on it, you can see Run as Administrator off to the right, or you can right click on it and click Run as Administrator. Regardless of how you do that, this does have to be run as an administrator. Click Yes. This puts you right into the System32 folder. So the utility we're going to be using is bcdedit.exe. You'll type bcdedit.exe space dash set space load options space enable underscore integrity underscore checks, and then press enter. Okay, that enables the integrity checks for the driver signing to ensure that all your drivers are signed and approved by Microsoft. Next thing we do is bcdedit.exe space dash set space test signing space off. This takes this out of the test mode where it's running the test mode, as you well know, if you're even watching this video, is a way for Windows to run unsigned drivers and not shut down or lock up or have problems. So this, the first thing we did was just re-enable integrity checks. The second thing was to remove the test signing off. Now I'll have to reboot the system, and it's going to go through this procedure where it's in checking the integrity of all your drivers and everything, and make sure everything's kosher before it finally says, guess what? You got all signed drivers, we're happy. And that's essentially what you're going to be going through now. And it actually took a while for my laptop. So, because I'd literally been running my laptop Windows 7 test mode for a couple of years. So, I'm not going to show that whole process. I'll time-lapse whatever. At the tail end, I'll just show you that, yes, it's now out of test mode in Windows 10 Pro, and it's working. That'll be what I'll show you next. Okay, I'm showing you now in Device Manager the display adapter information. As you can see here, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 980m. So it's now showing the correct card. It's not in test mode, and the integrity checks have been enabled. So I'm going to access the properties for this. it's working properly. And there's the driver details. Now this is a 5-year-old driver is the problem, so if you're into gaming and you want the updated drivers, it's a problem. You might have to stick with modifying INF, I'm sorry to say. But if you're like me, you just need it to be able to run the signed drivers for some programs that require it, then this is now running in Microsoft Windows hardware compatibility mode because this driver is signed. It's good to go. Okay, so I've run the DX diagnostic tool here. As you can see, everything looks to be working properly. This is the DirectX 12. It shows the laptop, the processor, the RAM. I did check the box for WHQL digital signatures. And when I go to display, you'll see here that it shows that my video card is now loaded. And it is a WHQL logo, meaning it's a signed driver. There you have it. I don't know what else to say. It'll be up to you to decide whether or not you want to use this and use an older driver, but have it actually work as a signed driver. If you do end up using the Snappy Driver tool to load this driver in Windows 10 environment, you might want to support the program Snappy Driver tool. They are volunteers. It is an open source. I'm not sure if it's open source, but it is a voluntary shareware type situation where they take donations and all that, I guess. So thank you for your time, and thanks for watching this video. Take care.